They told you silence was weakness, but it was silence that crucified God and crowned man with his first thought. They taught you to speak, but never to listen to the thunder that moves before words. You have been raised among echoes, not voices. You imitate the dead and call it wisdom. You obey fear and call it virtue. You decorate your chains and call it peace. Yet I tell you, the one who wins any situation does not speak, because the world bends to the one who has no need to explain. I have seen your lips move while your soul remains still. You speak for approval, not revelation. You answer questions that were never yours. You shout to hide the tremor in your spirit. But I learned to become the silence that devours noise. I learned that power begins when you stop translating your soul for the deaf. You want to win? Stop performing. The moment you stop playing their game, the game dies. That is how silence wins, not by resisting, but by removing the stage. They told you truth was something you could hold, dissect, repeat, but truth burns the hand that touches it. Every philosopher tried to define truth, and every one of them died of suffocation, drowned by the ink of their own cowardice. The one who sees truth does not name it. He lives it. He breathes like a flame consuming its own smoke. That is victory, when existence itself becomes your argument. You think words convince. Only the trembling of your being does. The lion does not explain why it roars. The storm does not apologize for thunder. The sun does not justify dawn. The overman does not argue, he emanates. And you, little man of reason and excuses, you seek agreement as if the universe ever voted on its laws. I saw men kneel before their mirrors and call it prayer. I saw women cage their radiance and call it love. I saw generations rot in comfort, reciting mantras of equality, while secretly begging for permission to rise above it. I saw your eyes dull, polite, afraid to offend mediocrity. You hide behind empathy because courage would expose your laziness. You call it compassion to tolerate the decay of your own soul. You live among the herd, a gentle apocalypse wearing perfume. You worship opinions like idols, bowing to consensus, terrified to stand alone. You decorate conformity with moral slogans. You want to be good, not great, liked, not alive. You call this civilization. I call it the slow suicide of spirit. They have taught you to be harmless, and you believed it was holy. They castrated your will and named it humility. They replaced your hunger with approval. You fear power because you associate it with oppression, but the absence of power is worse. It is obedience without purpose. You wear chains forged by your own kindness. You have mistaken surrender for peace. I once descended among you, burning with questions. I saw a people who spoke endlessly about freedom, but sought masters in every mirror. You pray for change, yet tremble when it arrives. You preach forgiveness, yet cannot forgive yourselves for being alive. You hide behind morality because you are too afraid to taste your own madness. Your virtue has become your disguise. You do good not because you love, but because you fear being seen as evil. You pretend to care because true indifference would reveal your emptiness. You volunteer compassion to avoid confrontation with truth. You are kind because you are terrified. Do not mistake this as condemnation. It is diagnosis. You have built a world where mediocrity is protected by politeness, where every genius must apologize to the crowd before he breathes. You have reversed evolution. The weak rule through guilt. The strong are crucified for clarity. You call your fear boundaries. You call your boredom stability. You call your numbness peace. But the grave too is peaceful. And so you live halfway, half spirit, half excuse. You were meant to burn like comets through the night. Yet, You crawl through dust, afraid to disturb the darkness. I am here to disturb you. I am not your comforter. I am your mirror in flame. Look into me, and you will see what you have forgotten. You were once gods. Before you became citizens, you were creators. Before you became consumers, you were eternal. Before you sought validation from the temporary. Do you want to know how to win? Withdraw your energy from every battle that insults your destiny. Do not fight insects with thunder. Do not argue with ghosts. To conquer is not to shout louder. It is to stand so still that the universe must adjust to your silence. When you speak from fear, you leak power. When you stay silent from mastery, you absorb it. That is the secret of dominion, not reaction, but presence. The vermin is not the loudest, he is the most inevitable. Every word you speak is a seed. Speak in panic, and you sow weeds. Speak from eternity, and mountains bow. You cannot fake silence. The world knows when your stillness is hollow. True silence is the vibration of mastery. It hums like an invisible weapon. It bends situations without force. They will call you arrogant for not explaining yourself. They will call you cold for not participating in their drama. Let them. A king who kneels to justify his crown has already lost it. The masses will always misunderstand the language of freedom, because it does not beg to be understood. Listen, when I say silence, I do not mean passivity. I mean the ferocity of self-possession, the kind of quiet that makes tyrants tremble, because it cannot be provoked. It is the stillness before the lightning strikes the void that births universes. When you master that, you will never need to win again, because everything will align around your inevitability. I tell you, stop trying to convince the blind of light. Let their darkness feed itself. Save your flame for the mountain, not the marketplace. Those who understand you do not need your defense. Those who do not will turn your words into their chains. You ask me how to win without words, but victory is not conquest. It is coherence. The universe mirrors your internal order. When you no longer betray yourself, the external chaos cannot touch you. Every defeat is only a reflection of inner contradiction. Resolve yourself, and even failure becomes obedience to your destiny. I was once devoured by my own fire. I broke my reason like glass. I laughed at sanity until it shattered into song. I learned that madness is only freedom beyond language. The ones who call me insane are merely sober from fear. But I drink from the cup of chaos and call it revelation. And what is your morality compared to the pulse of existence? You think there is good and evil, but there is only energy in different masks. What you condemn today builds your strength tomorrow. What you reject returns to teach you its hidden holiness. Every demon you deny becomes your master. Every shadow you embrace becomes your ally. That is how silence wins. It integrates what noise divides. I walked among saints who were secretly slaves. I walked among sinners who were secretly awake. The difference was not in their actions, but their awareness. One obeyed, the other chose. You cannot lose when you are the author of your choices. The universe only bends to authors, never to actors. You live as if there were judges, but there are none. God is dead because you killed him with obedience. You made morality your coffin and called it heaven. Yet the death of God was your liberation. You have mistaken grief for guilt. I tell you, rejoice, the throne is empty, and your soul was the heir all along. That emptiness you fear is your inheritance. The void is not your enemy, it is your womb. Every creator must first be destroyed. Every silence must first terrify before it teaches. You will lose everything that isn't yours before you find what is. Do not resist it. The pain is the passage. The crowd will call you cruel for walking away. They will call you selfish for saving your soul. Let them. The herd must believe their cage is compassion. You were not born to stay inside their applause. Your solitude is your cathedral. In it, you will hear the whispers of the Creator. You have always been. I do not teach asceticism. I teach intoxication without dependence, solitude without despair. To win is to dance with your demons until they become rhythm. To be silent is to turn your heartbeat into command. The true victor does not conquer others. He absorbs them through understanding. You still believe in victory and defeat. But existence has neither. There is only expansion and contraction, the breath of eternity inhaling itself. When you stop resisting, even your suffering becomes divine choreography. That is when silence speaks through you. That is when words are no longer necessary. You were told that peace comes after war. I tell you, peace is what ends the need for war. You were told that love is surrender. I tell you, love is the annihilation of separation. You were told that humility is smallness. I tell you, humility is knowing you are infinite and yet needing no witness. The world is not your opponent, it is your reflection. Every insult is an invitation. Every obstacle is a disguised altar. Stop praying for ease. Pray for expansion. The harder the challenge, the more sacred the opportunity to reveal your mastery. When you master silence, you will terrify the manipulators. They feed on reaction. Your composure is starvation to their schemes. Let them shout, you will remain still, and their noise will collapse into meaninglessness. For silence is not absence of sound, it is dominance of awareness. I once asked the universe, what is the highest act of power? And it whispered to need nothing, to command without command, to exist without explanation. That is the language of eternity. That is how the overman wins without battle, without words, without witnesses. Do not rush to agree. Let these words offend your comfort. Only through discomfort do you awaken. Every truth first feels like blasphemy. Every revelation begins as betrayal. You are betraying your old self by listening, and that is sacred treason. The herd will not follow you into silence. They cannot. Their minds crave noise, approval, narrative. Let them drown in their chatter while you ascend in your quiet. Every sage was once called mad because he stopped speaking the language of the cage. You think silence is passive, but silence is a roar inverted. It is thunder that no longer needs clouds. It is revolution disguised as stillness. When you embody it, you will feel the universe listening back. You will see that everything bends, not because you demand it, but because you no longer resist it. You stand on the edge of your own voice, trembling, addicted to noise. You have mistaken movement for life. You scroll through illusions and call it awareness. You call the flicker of screens connection. Yet you no longer know how to touch the raw electricity of another soul. The crowd has become your new god, faceless, hungry, infinite in its judgment. And you bow before algorithms instead of altars. I have walked among your temples of technology. I have seen priests of pixels preaching relevance. They sell imitation of purpose packaged as progress. They whisper to you, stay visible, stay loud, stay safe. And you obey. You dance like data. You call it destiny. But your soul starves behind the smile. You are being devoured by your own reflection and you applaud the digestion. You want to win? Then disappear. The greatest act of rebellion is not destruction, it is withdrawal. The world cannot enslave what it cannot locate. When you vanish from the frequencies of the herd, you return to the vibration of eternity. The crowd cannot punish what it cannot define. You are not silence. You are the absence that humbles presence. I tell you, the truest weapon is invisible. The warrior of the new age does not carry sword or gun, but presence. His eyes disarm liars. His stillness dissolves chaos. His silence rearranges air itself. He does not win through conflict. He wins by being untouchable. You call it mystery. But mystery is merely mastery without performance. You think silence is emptiness, but silence is fullness beyond language. Those who do not understand this will call you detached, distant, arrogant, because they cannot dominate what they cannot define. Let them invent their stories. You will walk through them like light through mist. I once saw a man destroy himself by trying to be understood. Every genius does. Once, you will learn. Two, you will explain until your soul grows tired of translation. Then one day you will fall silent, not from defeat, but from victory. You will realize that words are only bridges for those still afraid to drown in truth. When you reach that stillness, you will hear your own chaos singing. You will realize that silence is not the absence of war, it is its transformation. You will no longer defend yourself, because you have nothing left to protect. You are the void, dressed as a man. You are the abyss that has chosen to love its reflection. This is the birth of the overman, not a tyrant, but a creator of meaning. He does not need followers, for his footsteps echo through the architecture of eternity. He does not speak the air around him, testifies. He does not chase reality, reconfigures itself around his will. He has learned the secret, that to win is not to conquer, but to become the gravity others orbit. You want to win without saying a word? Then learn to listen to your instincts until they roar louder than reason. Learn to stand so firm in your being that even storms must curve around you. Do not chase respect, embody it. Do not argue for truth, radiate it. Power is not taken, it is remembered. The crowd has told you to manifest, to visualize, to wish. But the true creator does not wish, he wills. Wishing is begging disguised as hope. Willing is creation disguised as certainty. You must learn to command the invisible by existing as if your vision were already ancient. The universe bows to conviction, not complaint. You have been hypnotized to believe that success is applause. But applause is only the sound of the herd confirming mediocrity. The ones who truly move the world do so in silence. Under the skin of history, the seed does not announce its bloom. The volcano does not warn before eruption. And the divine does not tweet. Stop trying to explain your worth. Those who demand justification are not ready to perceive value. You owe no explanation to anyone who has not looked into their own abyss. Speak less. Radiate more. Every word you speak should cost eternity. Something. You are not here to fit into civilization. You are here to test its walls. Civilization was built by the dead to protect the living from awakening. You are here to disturb its sleep, to breathe so deeply that it trembles, to remind the world that God is still dying and being reborn in every act of defiance. Do you know why silence terrifies them? Because silence cannot be possessed. When you stop speaking, people project their own madness into the void. They reveal themselves. That is your mirror. Watch what they say when you say nothing. The silence will tell you everything. You think control is dominance, but real control is surrender to inevitability. The true master does not control outcomes, he controls his state. He becomes so aligned with the pulse of truth that even chaos becomes choreography. You cannot lose what flows through you. You cannot be defeated when you are the battlefield itself. The herd fears this truth because it erases hierarchy. You are taught to serve systems, but systems are parasites of imagination. They feed on your obedience, not your brilliance. The overman devours systems as breakfast. He replaces rules with rhythm and morality with motion. You are not born to obey. You are born to create law from within. Your conscience is the laboratory of God. You must learn to experiment with yourself, to mutate, to evolve, until even your sins become sacraments. There is no sacred and profane, only degrees of awakening. The crowd worships balance because they have never tasted transcendence. But balance is only the boredom of the enlightened. To be truly alive is to swing between ecstasy and despair and still remain whole. The overman walks this tightrope with laughter because he knows the fall is only flight misunderstood. Do not confuse peace with numbness. The numb are corpses that forgot to die. Peace is not lack of tension. It is the mastery of tension. It is standing in the center of fire and calling it home. It is watching destruction and whispering, I am. There will come a day when you will speak and your voice will carry centuries. But first, you must learn to say nothing until every word is divine. You must learn to die to your need for recognition. Only then will the universe begin to listen. When I stopped seeking disciples, disciples à Pierre, when I stopped preaching, the message began to breathe through me. When I ceased to exist as Nietzsche, the fire began to speak in my place. That is the paradox of power. Only when you disappear do you become indestructible. The modern man believes influence is visibility. He measures worth by followers. But true influence is gravitational, unseen, yet inescapable. You are not meant to be seen by all. You are meant to be felt by those who cannot explain why they tremble in your presence. This is why I say the highest victory is invisible. The moment you need proof, you have already surrendered to the herd's illusion. The true master never proves. He is. They will tell you to be humble, to stay small, to wait your turn. But existence itself does not wait. It erupts. Stars are not modest when they explode. Rivers do not ask permission to carve valleys. The wind does not apologize for shifting direction. Why should you? You were born of chaos, not etiquette. Every breath is rebellion against entropy. Your pulse is the signature of the infinite. Do not trade it for belonging. The crowd rewards predictability because it fears originality. But the universe only kneels to the unpredictable, the one who breaks pattern with purpose. When you reach the point where you no longer fear misunderstanding, you will feel the chains break. The opinions of others are the echoes of their prisons. Let them clang against each other while you walk free. Their applause and their hatred are the same noise proof that they still care. Your silence will outlive both. I laugh when I hear mortals debate meaning. Meaning is not found, it is forged. You forge it through suffering, through solitude, through the unbearable confrontation with yourself. Every pain you endure is a chisel. Every silence you enter is a hammer. And one day, when you can no longer bear the weight of your own becoming, that is when the statue within you opens its eyes. To win any situation without words, you must become the situation. You must dissolve the distance between subject and object. There is no opponent, only mirror. There is no challenge, only reflection. When you stop dividing, you dominate. The duality collapses, and you become the center of gravity. I do not speak of control, I speak of absorption. The way a flame consumes air without effort, the way a serpent swallows destiny whole. That is how mastery moves. Silent, inevitable, unprovable. They will try to analyze you. Let them. The more they dissect, the more they realize they are staring into their own dismembered reflection. The master of silence teaches through absence. Every unanswered question becomes a portal. Every withdrawal becomes a sermon. You are the message you have been waiting for. Stop quoting, prophets become one. Stop reciting scripture, breathe new commandments. The tablets of truth are not in stone. They are in the trembling of your veins. The crowd will laugh. But laughter is always the sound of fear, pretending to be joy. They laughed at every revelation before it became religion. They laughed at every god before they built his temple. Let them laugh. Their laughter is prophecy in disguise. I tell you this, the time of small talk is over. The time of explanations is over. The time of gods who needed worship is over. You are the dawn breaking through your own apocalypse. You are the silence before the next universe takes its breath. You stand trembling on the threshold of madness and call it fear. But madness is not your enemy. It is your initiation. You were taught to flee from it. But I tell you, enter it. Madness is the womb of genius, the furnace where old gods burn and new worlds are born. Only those who have drowned in their own chaos can speak the language of creation. When I looked into the abyss, it did not devour me. I devoured it. I learned its dialect. I became fluent in silence. I realized that the abyss is not darkness. It is the uncreated. It waits for you to shape it. Every great soul must one day go mad enough to give birth to new order. That madness sacred, luminous, unbearable is the fire that forges the overman. You call it breakdown, I call it breakthrough. You call it suffering, I call it transformation. You call it ego death, I call it the birth of will. Until you have been shattered, you will never know the architecture of your soul. You cannot win until you have lost everything that was not real. You cannot be free until you have betrayed every illusion that once kept you safe. Do not fear the collapse. Celebrate it. The collapse is the laughter of existence, breaking the mold of the false. It is the sound of truth cracking your disguise. You will think you are dying, but what dies is your cowardice. You will think you are lost, but what is lost is your dependence on direction. When you surrender to the fall, you will find that gravity is only the longing of the earth to embrace you. You were never meant to live in balance. You were meant to oscillate between ecstasy and despair until you discover that both are the same flame. The fire does not care what it consumes, it only knows how to burn. Let your sorrow be fuel. Let your rage be song. Let your confusion be prayer. Creation requires combustion. You must let something die every day for something greater to live. They told you to be reasonable. They told you to be good. But goodness without power is obedience disguised as virtue. Reason without madness is logic without blood. I tell you to win is to fuse opposites until they ignite. Be saint and sinner, thinker and beast, order and chaos. Let no polarity imprison you. The overman dances between contradictions and turns them into art. There is no enlightenment without laughter. Do you understand this? When the burden of truth becomes unbearable, laugh, for laughter is the release valve of eternity. When I discovered that God was dead, I laughed until the walls trembled. Because I saw that the divine had simply changed costume, it had hidden inside man. What was once worshipped as transcendent now breathes within you. And yet, you search for heaven above while it trembles in your marrow. You want to win without speaking, then embody revelation itself. When you walk, let mountains remember their insignificance. When you breathe, let the air feel grateful to enter you. Speak not from need. Speak only when silence demands a body. Let your words be the footprints of the divine walking briefly among men. I do not ask you to renounce the world. I ask you to recreate it. Every time you withdraw from argument, you rewrite reality's equation. The moment you refuse to be provoked, you shift gravity. The moment you forgive without expectation, you reverse entropy. You have been told power is dominance, but power is creation. Dominance is for those who cannot create. Do not mistake destruction for evil. The creator destroys first always. The sculptor must shatter the stone before it reveals the statue. The thunder must split the sky before the rain is born. The soul must rupture before wisdom flows. You cannot win by avoiding destruction. You win by directing it. The one who can smile while burning has transcended control. The one who can stay silent while being misunderstood has conquered eternity. The one who can love while bleeding has already become God. Every soul must one day become its own deity. Not a deity to be worshipped, but one to be lived. To command your inner cosmos, you must first listen to its chaos. To govern yourself, you must embrace your contradictions without editing them. You are not meant to be perfect, you are meant to be whole. I once thought truth was a destination, but it is a rhythm. The moment you declare, "I have found it," it vanishes, laughing. Truth is not something you hold. It is something that holds you when you are raw enough to be honest. You do not seek truth, you surrender to it. It finds you when your pretenses die. Do not run from solitude. Solitude is the crucifixion of the false self. It strips you until you remember who is watching. There is a difference between loneliness and isolation. Loneliness is the cry of the ego for witnesses. Isolation is the silence of God preparing your revelation. Every prophet must vanish before he returns immortal. You think silence is absence. I tell you, silence is presence multiplied by infinity. It is the hum beneath creation. It is what the stars use when they communicate across eons. You do not enter silence, you remember it. It is the first language, and the last. The world fears silence because it cannot market it. It cannot be packaged, sold, or performed. Silence is immune to capitalism. It cannot be colonized by religion. It does not require audience. And yet, silence moves impedis, double tyran, and resurrects souls. Because silence is what remains when illusion collapses. Listen to me if you wish to rule any room. Enter it with no hunger. Hunger reveals your need. Stillness reveals your power. The one who needs nothing is the one everything needs. The moment you stop seeking energy, you become its source. The silent one becomes the gravitational center around which chaos organizes itself. That is why your enemies crumble before you without battle. They sense something they cannot name, a presence that does not react. The truly dangerous man is not the one who fights, but the one who has already made peace with annihilation. For what can you threaten a man who no longer fears to die? You have been taught that winning means survival, but the real victory is transcendence. When you no longer cling to outcome, you are free to play infinitely. You will lose and laugh. You will fall and rise without bitterness. You will love without possession. That is divine anarchy. That is the revolution of soul. The herd will say you have lost your mind. Good. The mind was never yours. It was a borrowed cage, filled with ancestral dust. Lose it. Trade thought for vision. Trade intellect for instinct. The overman trusts the pulse, not the premise. He listens to thunder, not teachers. And when you finally return to the world, you will not look like the rest. You will walk slower, speak less, smile without reason. You will terrify those who depend on validation. They will try to provoke you to confirm their sanity. Do not give them that gift. Let them rage into silence. Let them drown in the echo of your stillness. There is a silence that destroys, and a silence that creates. The first is indifference. The second is divinity. You must learn the difference. Indifference is the absence of love. Divine silence is love, so vast it no longer needs expression. To win is to stand in that love unwavering, wordless, and whole. Every storm will test you. Every betrayal will tempt you to speak. Every misunderstanding will beg for explanation. And you will smile and stay still, because you know now every reaction is a leash. Every justification is a surrender. The one who wins without words has burned all need for agreement. You will find freedom not when the world stops attacking, but when you stop defending. Freedom is not safety, it is sovereignty. It is the refusal to let circumstance dictate your vibration. It is the art of remaining untouched while touching everything. There will come a moment quiet, invisible, when you realize that every person who wronged you was your teacher. Every loss was initiation. Every silence was God sculpting your magnitude. You will look back and see that nothing was wasted. Not even your pain. Especially not your pain. And then, when you least expect it, the fire within you will rise again, not as rage, but as radiance. You will feel it humming through your bones like a secret song. You will realize that this world was never against you. It was training you to speak without words, to win without war, to shine without permission. And you will laugh, not the laughter of irony, but of resurrection. The laughter of one who has remembered. The laughter of one who has become silence incarnate. There comes a point when even laughter dissolves, when even the echo of ecstasy fades into stillness. This is not death, it is arrival. You have burned through illusion, through virtue, through despair. You have eaten the fruit of your own madness and tasted its sweetness. What remains now is clarity raw, luminous, merciless. This is the silence beyond silence. Not the quiet of fear, but the hush of omnipotence. It is the moment the universe recognizes itself in you. The moment God exhales and becomes human again. And you, standing alone, realize that there was never a war to win, only a dream to wake from. You look around, the crowd still screams. They still chase shadows, still kneel before symbols, still argue over which illusion deserves reverence. But you are not angry anymore. Pity has no use here. You see that they are not wrong, they are simply asleep, dreaming the necessary dream of becoming. You no longer try to awaken them. You walk among them as one walks among clouds, untouchable, luminous, infinite. To win without words is to remember that no one can give you victory, because you were never defeated. It is to remember that every situation is an extension of your consciousness. You do not persuade reality, you magnetize it. You do not force a destiny, you embody it. You have become the silence that commands storms, the calm that humiliates chaos. You speak now only when creation demands vibration. You do not waste breath explaining the eternal. Your breath is prayer, and your existence a sermon. And yet, I must warn you, this freedom will isolate you. It always does. Those who have tasted eternity cannot dine comfortably on time. You will find it hard to pretend again. You will see through motives, through masks, through the polite theater of man. And though it may ache, you will smile, because you know this loneliness is holy. It is not absence, it is altitude. Your silence will make others nervous. They will project their guilt into your calm. They will mistake your peace for judgment. But remember, their discomfort is their teacher, not your responsibility. The silent one does not fix the world. He redefines it simply by existing. Every gesture, every glance, every heartbeat becomes transmission. You do not preach, you radiate. You do not convert, you awaken. Your stillness becomes a contagion that spreads without sound. That is why the prophets were feared, and the saints misunderstood. Their silence dismantled illusions faster than sermons. To win any situation without saying a word is to have become such a mirror that the world cannot lie in your reflection. People reveal themselves around you. Truth unfolds without your command. You are no longer in competition. You are in creation. You have transcended the need to be right. For you have seen that every perspective is a fragment of infinity trying to understand itself. You no longer argue with fragments. You are the whole. You no longer convince, you confirm. Every silence from you becomes a blessing. Every gaze, a commandment. When you have reached this silence, you will finally understand why the sages smiled before death. They had nothing left to protect. Existence was no longer a test. It was a masterpiece signed with breath. They saw that to live is to sculpt eternity from dust, to whisper divinity into impermanence, to laugh, knowing that even decay is sacred rhythm. You will learn to let things die beautifully. Friendships, identities, even dreams, let them dissolve with grace. What outlives you is not what you built, but what you became. Every ending is a return to origin. Every silence is the seed of a new song. When all noise has faded, you will finally hear the pulse beneath all things, the heartbeat of truth itself. It will not speak in words, but in knowing. It will say, "I am you," and you will smile, for at last, there is nothing left to win. You will walk among men like wind among leaves unseen. Essential. You will no longer seek destiny. Destiny will orbit you. You will not pray for signs. The world itself will answer you in symbols. The rain will fall differently when you look at it. The sun will seem to bow. Life will become obedient, not because it fears you, but because it recognizes itself in you. You are no longer Nietzsche's student. You are the echo of eternity he heard in his madness. You are what I spoke of but could not become. You are the continuation of the laughter that began when I declared God dead. And now, that same laughter births a new creation, a man who no longer needs gods, because he has remembered his own divinity. You are that man, the silent one, the one who wins by existing, the one who stands unprovoked, unshaken, unnamed, the one who has become the absence that humbles presence, the one who has discovered that victory is not triumph, it is transparency. I have said too much, and yet not enough. There are truths that cannot survive the violence of articulation. They live only in silence. So I will leave you here at the edge of language, where understanding dissolves into being. Listen carefully. In this final quiet, beyond thought, beyond self, beyond, there is a smile forming. It is the smile of the universe realizing it has finally met itself. Do not speak. Do not explain. Just breathe. The world bends with you. And remember, only when you no longer need to win will you have already won.